Hello and welcome to the LARP Noobs. I'm Ian, and as ever, I'm joined by my LARPing adventurer, Dave.
Hello.
And you went off to Northern Kingdoms.
I did.
And this is your third Northern Kingdoms?
God. Yeah, it is my third Northern Kingdoms.
You're pretty steaped in this by now.
Well, yeah, I guess. They've done 8 events so far, so I haven't quite done 50% of them.
Sure.
But, I feel pretty situated in the world of The Witcher.
Yeah.
And all of that, basically. And the Free Company. Free Company is like the mercenary group that we're a part of. Previous episodes, for those that want to play along at home, are 71, 98, and 99. That's right, Ian.
You took notes.
I wrote them down before we started.
He is a Cyberdyne Systems 101.
Yes.
He is a learning computer.
I even wrote down patrons, so I don't need to just... Yeah.
Wow. You don't just need to just randomly yeet your phone around the room at the end.
No,
okay.
talk
Amazing.
among yourselves. I just need to look at the patron list and
Amazing.
Anyway. So, Northern Kingdoms, a Witcher LARP. It's fucking great. Okay, this has to be one of my highlight LARPs of all time. It's so well done. Like Simon and the rest of the team do. It's so bespoke and like they're so what can we do to make your experience better? And the more you feed into it, the more they kind of give back. You know?
I'm enchanted by the way you describe the goings on.
Yeah,
and the deeds and they're doing every time you do one of these episodes. I'm just they're nodding along this sounds fucking awesome.
They're the best. Yeah. I think iLARP are exceptionally good.
Yeah.
Okay, I think iLARP, what they do, Johnny and Kitty do exceptionally good stuff.
Yeah.
But Northern Kingdoms is unbelievable. We'll talk about it. So they give us this opportunity to do downtime. Okay, so instead of say at Empire where you're go on one of these, you literally write out whatever the fuck you want and see if you can do that thing in your downtime.
Right.
You can die in your downtime, okay? So if you fuck about, you will find out, okay? So...
And if I remember rightly, didn't you have a fake coin or something in the bank from last time?
A fake coin or a Benny or whatever you want to call it, which is basically a kind of you get a get out jail free card if you're going to die. But basically, in downtime, you can do it to do some pretty wacky shit.
Yeah, it's you've acquired a certain amount of plot coupons, and now you get to spend them on agency.
And wacky shit we did, Ian. Wacky shit we did.
And what did you do?
So in the previous event, we had a bit of a falling out with a guy, a lord from Tucson, which is where we're from, called Bois Duval.
Right.
Okay? Well, Bois Duval, in our opinion, is a pompous ass. Yeah. Okay? He's got beautiful blonde locks. He's very arrogant. He said our wine tastes like piss and that we were peasants. Now, the Dubois are not vicious people, okay? But nobody fucks with the Dubois, okay?
Right.
So the idea was that we were maybe going to go and teach him a lesson, right?
Okay.
Not hurt him or do anything mean. So we had this...
How do you define mean?
Well...
Okay.
So we wrote something out and then we get back... written out a fucking 2.5 page of story about what happened, okay? Which was hilariously well written and really, really fun. Basically, what happened was the Dubois brothers, myself, Jean-Michel, and my brother Jean-Luc. No, Jean-Luc's dead. Jean-Paul. And our elf, for Elf in Safety, the sneaky Ellie, decided that we were going to break into his house. Okay. So what we did was we intercepted a cask of wine that was headed to his house.
Okay.
We drugged the keg. So when we arrived at the house after the keg, all the people in the house had passed out.
Okay.
So then we snuck in with a donkey and then took the donkey upstairs to his bedroom,
Right.
It doesn't. Wow, this sounds like it's going one way, but it isn't going that way. You
Okay.
fucking perverts. And we put the donkey in his room, and then we write like some horrible things on the mirror, like your wine tastes like piss, and a bunch of other stuff. Also, nobody fucks with the Dubois, which in hindsight, probably not a good thing to write on a mirror.
Right.
But anybody could have written that. And then while they're doing that, I am pouring a substance on Beau Duval's hair. Okay?
Right.
And we gave a few, like, options on what that might be. So we were like, oh, could it be, like, a reverse mullet? Could it be a bald cap? Like, any of this stuff, right?
Yeah.
And then, as we're kind of, like, peering over, watching his hair fizz and bubble, okay, the door opens, and a servant walks in.
Okay.
And the servant's like, oh, you started the party without me, okay? Because
What?
Beau Duval likes to party, okay?
Okay.
The fact that he doesn't get on well with the Dubois is a travesty, because I feel like... We'll get to that anyway.
Okay.
But so then we all run out of the room, leaving the donkey, and skedaddle.
Okay.
And then after that... we get back to what we should be doing, which is fucking the Nilfgaardians up. And for those that don't know, Witcher lore, the Nilfgaardians are like the baddies from the south. Well, baddies is a pretty loose term in the Witcher.
Everything is morally grey.
They have ownership over Tucson, and we're trying to defend Tucson.
Yeah.
So we set fire to a bunch of ships to help them cross the river.
Sure.
And like burned a whole bunch of them down, and were basically a colossal pain in the arse by destroying all their ships and fucking with their supply lines. This turned out to be, by the way, I should say everything I say is purely for this episode. If you don't know this stuff before going in, please don't use it in game, because that's not how this works. There's propaganda pages going around of the Dragon of Tucson, because it sets fire to everything, okay? So we are...
the dragon.
The Dragon of Tucson.
Amazing.
Okay? So, we're like... we want to be like, medieval Batman, right? Like, we're nobles, we're dumb and rich, but, like, we're secretly actually an extremely effective guerrilla operation.
Well, didn't you have a whole thing with Professor Portal?
I should always mention this. Literally... all of the things I just said were only possible because of Dr. Portal.
Dr. Portal, yeah.
And we never give Dr. Portal any credit. We don't even pay him. He's
along for the ride.
Yeah, well, he's a very generous man. He saved our lives like countless occasions. Yeah.
This is the breakdancing portal mage.
Yes, who's actually competent.
Yeah.
He's the Grand Magos of the Free Company, which is like the person that's in charge of magic shit.
Yeah.
He's great, and we don't show him any love or respect at all. Well, we do, but like not as much as he actually deserves, right?
Yeah.
Because we're the Dragons of Tucson.
Okay.
So that kind of primes you for the beginning, and then we so the location that we had was something really interesting. It's called Chiselhurst Caves. So it's literally in caves,
A subterranean environment.
yes,
Amazing.
and we'll talk about some of the challenges that creates, but like aesthetically, like holy shit, we're in caves, we're gonna go and talk to dwarves, okay, like.
But it's so cool, dude. I was like, wow.
Dwarves.
This sounds amazing.
They even sent out a couple of different docs that were like, one was about dwarven customs. So to like familiar yourself with dwarven customs, and like they have like when they want to tell you to go fuck yourself, they might say it in a certain way, like this is your last drink, friend. You know, like
right, okay,
and things like that. Obviously, I'm a Dubois, so I skim read it and then forgot all about it because
that's the whole point, right?
That's
You're
the
supposed
whole
to
point.
be like
ignorant. I'm not a
you're not highly schooled in these matters, right?
No, he's trying, but no. So the areas that we're sleeping were communal, so everyone kind of grabs like a corner, like the side of the walls of the cave, and everyone camped out there. I had a camp bed, everyone else had kind of camp beds and was kind of camped out.
So it's all actually you're actually camping inside the caves in a
Yes.
subterranean environment.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
Yes.
And do you have like walls or
Yeah.
Anything like that?
Well, there's literally
like
cave walls.
Right.
Yes,
Okay.
cave walls.
Okay.
There were some wacky things about the site, like as you went through into the back area. Oh, these caves go on a fair bit in the back.
Right.
There's some really wacky decisions. Like occasionally you'll come across a structure that's like made out of bricks and it looks like it's old, and serves no purpose. Like if I owned that site, I would go around with a sledgehammer and I would smash out a bunch of the brickwork. So there was like really weird, weird brick structures that didn't make any sense in the place.
Is it like actually a historical location? Or?
I have no idea about anything historic with it.
Okay.
I'm sure it was used for something else. It strikes me as that, but clearly whoever runs it now likes LARP or is facilitating it for LARP, because there's to get into the caves, there's literally a little shop and there were a bunch of guys in there playing Yu-Gi-Oh! It's like a little game store.
Okay.
And they also had a big sales wall with the see-through glass display cabinets is what they're called, of LARP stuff. So they had like LARP swords and a bunch of other stuff. So clearly this site, and then the stuff that they have built in there, which is clearly like the modern stuff they've built, is meant to imply kind of a fantasy aesthetic, but the tone was a little bit weird. Like they had like a lager barrel, which is like lager. That's a weird thing to have a barrel of in this setting. But they're trying. It's cool. I think the site could do with a bit of love and care, but it's a bunch of fucking caves. And
dude, it sounds crazily cool.
Yeah, like you can't be like, honestly, like it's cool just being in caves, right? Just
it's super unique.
Yeah, really unique. So I drove down on the Friday.
Okay.
Obviously, I set off late. And then the M25 had like a flooded water main on it.
Oh no.
And everybody got hammered. I had what should have been a 2-hour drive was a 4-hour drive.
Right.
But there were people coming from Wales who spent like 9 hours driving and a bunch of other stuff. So basically it's just south of London. And for those people that aren't in the UK, think about London basically being a giant block. You're going like 50 miles and it will take you many hours to get to the other side of London. Like there's
like a huge ring road that goes all the way around it, essentially. And
the M25, the largest car park in the world.
Yeah, you go east or west around it and you're in for a long drive, basically, whichever way you go. And there is no easy option.
And you've got to pay for the privilege, right?
Yeah.
Because you've got to go through the toll roads.
Yeah.
Anyway. It's UK living stuff, okay? We arrived. I get there. Everyone helps me out with my kit because they're legends. Come down there, get kitted up. We have a good old safety briefing. There's like, obviously because you're in caves and the ground is a little uneven everywhere, it's like, don't run away. So the crew had been told not to pursue fast, but to let people disengage if that happens, so people don't panic and run and twist an ankle or break something, you know. An interesting way of setting up where you can and can't go. So Northern Kingdom tries to encourage you to kind of like explore. So in a lot of events, you'll go out to the woods and look for herbs or whatever the fuck, right? In this case, they had fairy lights. And they would change the colour of the fairy lights, whether you could go through it or not, which I thought was quite a nice,
that's quite cool,
subtle, like, hey, you can go here, you can't go here type way. So that was, I think, as ever, really good game design.
What was it like temperature-wise and water-wise? Because, obviously, cave systems, especially during rainy times, is there any risk of any...
It was pissing it down.
Yeah.
And I was like... Because I used to do caving when I was a teenager. I was like, oh man, rain, caves probably aren't a good mix. Wasn't an issue.
Okay.
It was damp down there. Like my pillow became quite wet on the outside.
Sure.
But not bad. It was more like just kind of an observation. Not
interesting. And was the floor slick or?
Not really slick. It was, again, think about it as just like slightly moist.
Okay.
Like it's a chalk cave.
Okay.
So like it's quite porous. So, but it wasn't wet.
Okay.
No. There were toilets and water and wash basins and things like that. There was some drinking water available. So these are all really nice things to have, right? Temperature-wise, people have been saying it was going to be really cold down there. It was not cold, okay? Yeah. From a man wearing a gambeson and full plate, it was warm, okay? Like, I don't think... when I slept at night, I slept in like literally a t-shirt, my crappy sleeping bag, and I was more than warm enough. So the temperature seemed to stay stable, but I don't. It seemed like warmish for LARPing, you know, like not indoor temperature, but not outdoor temperature.
Sure.
That makes sense.
And how does it work? With, like, I assume you can't have fires or anything like that.
No fires. Eating was a bit of a thing. They had a meal ticket. I did not bring enough food with me, like at all. I brought like a few Cornish pasties, some snacks, a bunch of other stuff. I should just mention this now. But people provided loads and loads of things just for like ambient stuff, right? Like I ate these little like pancake things. I just got like really into them. I must have eaten 6 of these things. I was just gobbling them down. It was so good. Plus Callum bought an assortment of sausage and wraps and hummus. And then other people had like a roast lamb and just, you know, there was lots of kind of
options.
Finger picking food that was absolutely delicious. So weirdly, despite thinking that I would be like in a lot of trouble, but I was thinking like, hey, I can order like a pizza on Saturday night. I didn't need to. There was more than enough food going around. So thank you all to people that were so generous in providing the food. So there's this bar area, okay? That's like this was one of the best sites at the place, which is just like, and I think people brought loads of stuff along to kind of make it look really fucking cool. Lots of like chairs and tables, an actual bar area.
Amazing.
Yeah, like really cool.
In the caves?
Yeah.
That's super sick.
Yeah. So, not for sale, so you put your own booze behind the thing. They had this wonderful chap, a Scottish guy, who was playing a dwarf.
Right.
He's a player, but whoever was going to run the bar as an NPC wasn't available for whatever reason. I think maybe COVID. So he took over running the bar. Okay. And he was he was so good. He was so good. Like surly, but rude in a really polite way. Told the most ridiculously long-winded jokes that went on forever. And then had like a really crappy punchline that was really funny. Like, well played, sir.
Amazing.
So, like... actually, a lot of the dwarves, because there are dwarves in the Free Company, obviously, but this guy's a player. They just owned it. Like, there was a couple of players that were just like, there was a female sorceress who's got like whiskers coming down here, so she's a bit dwarfy and she's cool. And then there was another guy with like a really cool beard. And just everybody, all the dwarves were like, yes, dwarves. Like,
this is your time to shine.
This is your time to shine.
Yeah.
So, Scottish accents were abroad, Welsh accents. I think in the audiobooks, the dwarves have a Welsh accent, but like any of the kind of like home nations generally were like worked really well. I think a lot of people were natively Scottish, and I'm sorry, Scotland, but Scottish makes a really good dwarven accent, right? Like it's a really good dwarven accent. The bar was fucking awesome. I had so much fun in there. It was a really nice, like, communal space to hang and just have fun and RP with people. So I really liked that. We had a few new folks in our little gang, and they were from a place called Kiwida? Kidwin. I'm going to go with
Kidwin. Okay.
And they were made up of a few friends of mine. They all had Irish accents, and they were like, kind of like, they were another nation that was like near Skellige that had ceased to exist, I think, because the Redanians invaded or something.
Okay.
So they're like, basically all the Witcher lore is terrible. Like, no one's having a good time. But so they are like ex-army who are now mercenaries, and they're trying to do their thing. Really fun seeing new people and getting their perspective on The Witcher and how they engaged with it. But yeah, we'll talk about them later. So the mission. Why is the Free Company in the fucking caves? Okay. Yeah. There's this... So we're there to basically get the gooblies out. So there are monsters and things in the tunnels that they want to kind of sorted with. But there's also this princess who's turned into a monster because she's cursed.
As happens in The Witcher.
As it happens in The Witcher. She was cursed, and then they found out if she wore a ring or a necklace or some shit, then she stopped being cursed and was a real princess, and then somehow she lost that or something, and now she's roaming around the caves like
As a monster. Okay.
So she's like the big bad, the big goobly monster that's somewhere down there, okay? So obviously the Dubois want nothing to do with that. Also, we couldn't use any explosives because we're in the fucking caves.
Right.
So we were neutered. Our main strength of yeeting bombs at people, we couldn't do. So we were kind of like, oh, what are we going to do now? We can't do bombs, you know?
Yeah.
But, so start the event, there's like, right, send a few patrols out, try and see what you can find. So we head out. And it's my first time. I deliberately didn't go round the back because I was like, I don't want to know. I want it to be
a surprise, right?
Yeah. So we go around the back and then sneak our head around, and then a necker comes out, which is basically a goobly.
Yeah.
And we stabbed that goobly up pretty good, as you do. Then we carried on. We're kind of like checking everywhere, and there's lots of kind of like gaps and holes where it should be. It's quite well lit for safety reasons, but like there's lots of places for things to jump out from basically if they want to. We come around this corner and there's these group of dwarves and they're kind of blocking the way, and they're like, oh, look who it is, who's this, you know, like we're like, hello dwarves, we're here to hello dwarves, we are here to keep everyone safe. And they're like, oh well, we're perfectly safe type thing. And there's this one dwarf who seemed quite nervous at the back, okay? He looked a bit unwell. And I was like, is your friend okay? And this was like, oh, that's Humble. He's fine, you know. And these guys are like bandits, okay? And they're going to mug us. But then Callum is like, oh, we'll pay you if you let us go through, okay? So I was like, do not pay them! This is ridiculous! And I was like, no, just fine, I'll pay them. So I started handing out a few coins. I started talking to Humble. So I was like, is your name Humble? Are you okay? Like, we can provide medical assistance. He was like, no, I'm fine. And just like, and he's really kind of this nervous dwarf.
Sure.
And while I'm talking to him, something kicks off. Okay? Like...
What, in a different area of
No,
the mine?
right where we are.
Okay.
So I think either the bandits pulled swords or we did, but instantly people are getting stabbed and it's chaos around me, and I'm standing there with Humble, and he's just like, maybe you can take me they take my brother hostage. And then he's like, hey, maybe you could take me hostage. And I'm like, good thinking, Humble. So I hold the dagger around his neck. And I'm like, I'll kill him. I'll fucking kill him. I'm going like, he's like, oh, you're doing a really good job. And I'm like, you're doing a really great job as a hostage, right? And I'm like, I'll kill him. But like, they pay attention for about 5 seconds and then go straight back to killing each other again. And I'm just like, Humble, they don't care whether I kill you or not. And he's just like, I'm like, oh, sorry, I think I just nipped your neck there, Humble. I apologise. You know, like really silly, really fucking fun. Eventually, we start cutting down the dwarves. I've hacked down a dwarf around a corner, and he's like wounded on the floor. Right. And I got him.
Yeah.
Because, he fucked with us. Right?
It's The Witcher.
And then, afterwards, like, I start talking to Humble, and it turns out that he just kind of like arrived in these caverns by accident,
right?
And kind of got in with the wrong crew and was told like banditing would be good fun and easy way to make money, but his heart really wasn't in it. Okay. So I was like, I'll come back to the bar with us, and like you can like hang out at the free company. So get him back and give him a beer and like have a bit of a chin wag with Humble. Really liked Humble, a great character. He eventually fucks off because he's a member of the crew, and we can't just steal them for ourselves for the entire night.
Amazing.
Ellie's character, Elfidred, I call her Elf, which is bad, and you shouldn't just call people by their what they are.
Yeah.
But I'm a Dubois and I do what I want. So the Elf, her dad showed up. Because she's a half-elf.
Okay.
And her human dad showed up.
And as a...
NPC.
NPC.
And, like, I got to meet him. It was like, oh, this is like Jean-Michel Dubois, and I'm like, it is a pleasure to meet you. And he was like, oh, I've heard really good things about you, and I was just like, the elf told you good things about me, and he was like, yeah, and I was like, oh, it is a pleasure, and I was like being all nice and stuff. I don't know what's going on with that. I feel like there's plot there. I don't think Ellie really got into what that plot was, but I'm kind of curious. Like, there's some stuff that I kind of heard after the event, but there's like, it's interesting. But like, that's a really good example of like how good Northern Kingdoms is, right? You write some stuff in your backstory, and then an NPC shows up.
Amazing.
And it's your daddy. And it's like, and Ellie was like, Ellie even said that she was like felt like she should have a bit of a cry, because it was like, oh my God, that's so sweet that someone took the time to look at my character.
Did she know beforehand that he was turning up? Oh wow, okay.
Yeah. And basically what happened was, like, I think it was like some sort of Redanian thing, and the Redanians are the ones who are like real dicks about non-humans, okay? Like sorceresses, dwarves, elves, like they're all on the funeral pyre. Okay. Very nasty business. So he couldn't, for whatever reason, like send her a message, so they ended up like, and then when he heard he could, he came running, and it was all like, okay, cool, but there's lots of questions about all of this, right? Sure. Where have you been?
Like, why now?
Sure. Lots of stuff, okay? Speaking of non-humans, all the non-humans had a non-human meeting.
Interesting.
Humans not invited. So I ended up walking in there by accident, and they all shooed me away. Basically, they came to a thing that was like, we are all to try and not call
what, like
elves,
a character who actually has a name, Elf.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Or Witcher. Hey, Witcher.
Right.
You know, we'll see how that works out. But generally, I could call Ellie's character Dread, and it would be fine. But it's much more funny just to be like, Elf! All the time. Oi, Witcher! Very silly. Then we had elections. So there are different positions in the Free Company.
Yeah.
So there is like a quartermaster, there's like provost, I want to say, and the magos. I think they're the roles. I haven't written them down, but I think they're the 3 roles that we voted for. And basically, quartermaster sorts out the cash, make sure people are paid, make sure they have resources to do whatever they do. Provost is like dealing with people being naughty or coming out of line. They're in charge of like discipline.
Right.
Magos is in charge of magic. So we had a little election. That was really fun, getting people to do that. People won. I won't go into it. It's just a cool thing that we have a bit of agency over, right?
Yeah.
And then I just wrote romance in the air.
Ooh.
Okay.
Ooh.
So me and Callum have been talking between events, and we were like, wouldn't it be fun to like have a storyline where we're both pining after the same person, but we like sabotage each other so badly that neither of us have the opportunity because we're so bad at it, right? Sure. We kind of had this idea when we're going to be like, there's this one a lovely lady, I won't mention her name, but she's from Poland, and she's very, very good at LARP and very, very cool. She's the one who made us go for the flower quest last time.
Oh, right, amazing. Yeah.
So I was like, okay, and we messaged her and we're like, hey, would you mind if this storyline type thing? And she was like, oh, I'm really sorry, but I'm not going to be at the next event.
Okay.
But her friend who plays the dwarf is. So I got to her and I was just like, excuse me, does your sorceress friend, did they mention me at all? And she was like, oh yeah, saying like nice things about you. And I was like, oh really? What did she say? And she was just like, oh, she said how beautiful your eyes were. So for the rest of the night, I went around and was just like this. Everyone just
fluttering your eyes,
fluttering my eyes around. And like other people would be like, is there something wrong with your eyes?
Are you having a fit?
Yeah, and they're like, oh, did you said something about my eyes? And then some players cottoned on and went, wow, you really do have beautiful eyes. And I was like, yes, I do. It's one of my best features.
I have been told.
Yeah, I've been told I have pretty special eyes. Do not look at them too long, you will get lost in them. Really fun. But Jean-Paul decided that he was going to be in love with the dwarf. I had a bit of an OC chat with her and was just like, hey, do you mind if I pine for you? And
okay.
He even set it up that he would be rebuffed. He was like, yeah, but you've got to rebuff me at all costs, right?
Okay.
Like, whatever. And I was just like, okay, cool. I was like, oh, that's sad, because, you know, you could be, you know, anyway, making, like, half-dwarf babies and stuff. But, really fun. So basically, sure. For the rest of the weekend, he had his eyes on the dwarf, and every time she came up, he would say compliments about her, and there was, like, just very silly, very silly.
Amazing.
There was also, I'll touch on it briefly, so the Magos, Captain Portal.
Yeah.
Dr. Portal, I should say, get his title right. And Nico, who is like one of the top kind of organizer people in the thing, they had this weird like little romance going on.
Okay.
So Dr. Portal had arranged it so her room was full of flowers. This is during downtime. This is one of the things he did in downtime, was full of these flowers. Okay. And then on Friday night, his bed at the event was covered in flowers. So she had reciprocated.
Amazing.
And covered his bed with flowers. And then on Saturday, they went for a cheeky little date. And fucking player pimping. You know what I mean? Like, that shit's fucking cool. And it was like really cool. Fun. It's also like, I love how like Dr. Portal's like this smooth.
He's got all the moves.
He's not only dance moves, he's got moves, Ian. Moves.
I mean, if you have the ability to make portals, I think, like, it's a distinct advantage. And it opens up all kinds of opportunities to...
Spoilers for the game.
Yeah.
There's a scene in it where the main character's portal to somewhere else to have a date. And this was his plan.
Amazing. That
he could portal them to... I mean, like, that's a fucking superpower. Like, why don't we go to the sea of whatever? This is one of my favourite, most beautiful spots in the world. Like, well played, Dr. Portal.
That's really cool.
I'm very proud of you. Oh my God, Saturday. Okay. So go to bed. Now, as some people may know, I'm a bit of an anti-snorer. And recently I found out that I might be joining the disgusting ranks of snorers.
Okay.
I have been told that I have a very sweet, soft snore.
Okay.
But that's still a snore, Ian, and not acceptable. So I don't know what I'm going to do about that, but I'm getting older now and it's freaking me out. So anyway. But communal sleeping, there was the gentle orchestra of snoring going on. And honestly, a snorer is annoying.
Right.
Many snorers, it just drifted me off to sleep. It was really nice. There was no... something about...
They hit like a harmonic...
Yeah, like a kind of resonance that was just like sleepy time now. And it was like, it made me think about like, you know, someone mentioned it about how back in the day when everyone slept in caves or communal areas, I was like, is this plugging into some weird like primal shit where I'm like, oh look, everyone's sleeping and they're snoring, and as a group it makes me feel sleepy time, and I just fell asleep. I was also really pissed, so that probably
maybe it was that.
That helped. So Saturday morning, I think I get a lot of the timeline wrong because we're underground. It's hard to kind of
sure, of course.
Yeah. Anyway, I think it might be in the afternoon. Anyway, someone comes over and goes, Jean-Michel, you and your brother have been summoned. There's some people here from Tucson that want to speak to you. And I'm like, from Tucson? Maybe I'm going to get the medal. So I
love that
jumped
first
up
instinct.
And go and see my brother. And there's some fucking Tucson, like, there's like an emissary and like someone with a big fucking weapon. And they're like, are you the Tucson brothers? And we're like, we are. And they're like, you have been summoned to go to the Duchess of Tucson's court. And I'm like, we're totally going to get the medal. And then I said to like the one carrying the weapon, I was like, tell me, are we going to get the medal? Like, don't lie to me. And they were like, she's looked at me like, get the fuck on with it type thing. They were kind of brisk with us, and I was like... And then they were like, you're allowed to bring one other person with you. You need to bring a lawyer. And we were like, a lawyer? What is this? You know? We took Dr. Portal. It would have been really good. This is just one thing. If we could have brought Ellie along as well. Because we're the 4 people that were involved in this storyline.
Okay.
Dr. Portal, Ethelred, Jean-Paul and me, right? So it would have been cool if she could have come, but they were really insistent that we can only have so many people. That'd be my one criticism of all of this, by the way, because it was fucking amazing. So we go to the end of the caves. They do a portal.
Okay.
We get portaled to Tucson. We walk through the caves, come through, and there's like this whole thing where there's literally the Duchess is sat on a fucking chair higher than everyone else. To one side of her, there is a magistrate.
Okay.
To the other side is Beau Duval, and he is wearing an outrageously multicolored wig, and next to him is this lady. Okay,
is Beau Duval a player or an NPC?
He's an NPC.
Okay,
but he's a man, the myth, the legend. Okay,
right.
So, and everyone looks very fucking serious. Okay. So I actually
it's so good.
There was a photographer there, Gordon, and he captured a little bit on video, which I posted on our Facebook wall, so you can actually see what I'm talking about. But they were like, "Do you know why you're here?" And I was like, "Not a clue. Is it for a medal?"
Yeah.
And they were like, "No, you'll come here because you have to answer for your actions." And we were like, "What actions?" And then Callum
it's like taking a drink.
Slops from his drink, and she just goes in, "Do you drink in court?" And he just goes, "Yes." And that's the whole video. But it's so funny. It's so funny.
It's so funny.
So they're like, "You're here on like 3 charges." The magistrate lists them out. He's just like, you broke into Duval's house, drank his wine, and wrecked his house. And I was just like, I wouldn't drink his piss wine. And then they started yelling at me, you know, like, and then basically me and Callum constantly interrupted the court. Callum more than me, but we were constantly interrupting everything, and they got real mad about it. We defamation of character. Because we had smeared the Right Honourable Beau Duval's name by calling him a coward and his wine tasting like piss.
Okay.
And what was the other one? Oh, like the assault thing of doing his hair in, right? And so, obviously, us being shrewd operators pleaded not guilty.
Okay.
Immediately. And then they brought forward a witness who was
the maid,
who is also a close confidant of the Duchess, which is a problem,
a big problem,
because we can't call her a liar because that will reflect badly on the Duchess. And then I'm like, I go to the maid, I'm like, snitch, and it was just like, you know, like just being mean. And then the Duchess was like, in light of this new material, maybe you should go and talk to your lawyer for 2 minutes. And as soon as I got around the corner, I was like, right, let's get the fuck out of here. They're like, no. Dr. Portal was like, by the way, Dr. Portal throughout all of this was just exacerbated. Like, he was just so like, please stop talking. When they're talking, don't talk. Okay?
Right.
Like, and we're like, anyway, like, he's like, no, we can't run. And I was just like, why not? And I was just like, no, just go in there and say sorry, and then we'll get out of here, okay? And it was just like, what are we saying sorry for? Anyway, so we go back in there. They're like, how do you plead? And we're like, guilty. You know what I mean? Like,
okay.
So they came up with a few different charges that we could possibly get. 25 gold, crown pieces or whatever each.
Right.
And I lean over to Callum and I'm like, how much do we have? And he just looks at me and goes, not that much. And I'm like, oh shit. So then the second one was we could in a public square, Beau Duval slaps us. The third one was Beau Duval kicks us in the bum.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right.
They're one of our 3 options.
Okay.
So obviously none of these seem very good. But we try and plead our case, saying that we're the Dragons of Tucson and all that stuff, right? That everything we do. But we keep on swearing and being loud. At one point, The Duchess stood up and used a very stern, angry voice on us. Right. And then, because Callum interrupted her, and Callum got fined in contempt of court of 25 crowns, which is literally pretty much our entire stack of cash. Right, like that is us straight to the poverty line for contempt of court. It plays out. I start trying to flirt with the handmaiden because I'm bored and figure this is what Jean-Michel would do. So I'm saying, oh, I really like that necklace you have. It sparkles and brings out the colour in your eyes. And she's just looking at me like, I hate you. And I'm just like being like, oh, that dress is so beautiful. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. So eventually Beau Duval stands up and he kind of gives his piece on what happened, and we're like, we're so fucked. We are going to get ironed the fuck out, and we're being very badly behaved. And
sure.
So we're fucked. But then the magistrate comes up with a punishment.
Okay.
So we don't need to pay the money.
Okay.
Although Callum did have to pay the money because that was a separate charge of contempt of court.
Okay.
We're not getting the kick up the bum or the slap on the face. For the next year,
right,
we are put into Beau Duval's stewardship, where he is going to teach us elocution lessons and how to be gentlemen again.
Oh my gosh.
Whenever he wants, he says, it is time for a lesson, and we have to go with him. So then we erupt into, shit! Fuck my ass! And like stuff like this, right? Like in the middle of the court, right? And just being very badly behaved. But yeah, so now for the next year, we're like the worst. Like such a beautiful punishment. Such a wonderfully beautiful punishment that the magistrate, I think, just came up with on the spot because it would be the best. And honestly, as a player,
yeah,
I'm like, this is so good. Like the idea of Beau Duval trying to teach us how to be gentlemen again and teaching us elocution lessons is the best game. Like, it's so fucking good. Eventually we left and I like... the lady holding the spear, I was just like, I thought you said we were going to get medals. And she never said that. But, just to fuck with them. And then eventually, they also had some questions about the Free Company and bad things that we had potentially done, but a lot of it was slanderous. So Dr. Portal actually did some Dr. Portaling stuff and managed to convince them that it wasn't that bad, but they were going to run an audit and all this stuff. So eventually, someone had given me a dragon... like a badge type thing but I decided I just got given this and it's a really cool gift, but I decided that I would give it to the Duchess. Right. I was just like, next time when you see burning ships on the horizon, the Nilfgaardian ships on the horizon, maybe you could look at this in that firelight and maybe think of us. And it was just like, and then we got out of there. It was the best. We must figure out a way of being naughty enough that we have to be put in court again, but not naughty enough that it's actually a serious crime. Okay. So we need to do like good and bad at the same time.
Mischievous crime.
Yes. So one thing was that it came out that Beau Duval's granddad was being held captive by the Nilfgaardians.
Okay.
So we were like, what if we rescued Beau Duval's granddad?
Okay.
And then we asked Beau Duval where his granddad was being kept. And it turned out he's being held in Nilfgaard.
Okay.
But our initial plan was if he was being held at the family home, we get in there, grab the granddad, replace him with a really big bomb, and then leave.
Okay.
And then blow up Beau Duval's house.
Okay.
But rescue his granddad.
Okay.
So that's like a good and a bad thing.
Sure.
Like this is like an example. I don't think we can do that, but just as an example of what we want to do, that's the sort of vibe. Well played to everyone in that room. I'm so sorry for you did so well in trying to not laugh. The Duchess kept on having to drink out of a cup to not. It was so fun. It was very silly. Classic Dubois. Absolutely amazing. Beau Duval came back with us and tried to teach us some elocution lessons.
Amazing.
We have to keep our pinky up when drinking, and also
Right.
And he was like, no. And it was just like, then Callum's like, he's holding the cup above his mouth and pouring it in to finish it. And I was like, yay! And he's like, no. It's like, but I like the idea that Beau Duval and us are going to kind of rub off on each other.
Right.
So we're going to get more, well, maybe not more, like, we'll see.
You're going to have weird quirks, right?
Yeah,
like
but like,
civilized quirks.
We're going to make,
sort of like...
We're going to make Beau Duval a brave hero by the time we're done.
Sure.
Just like us. So then we did the mercenary company thing, which is like where we have like mercenary units. We get given a brief on what's happening with them, and then they go off and do that thing.
You were in charge of the light cavalry last time or something, weren't
the
you?
Knights of Dubois. Yeah, that's right, Ian. And we were again this time. And bear in mind, me and Callum, basically, we're one character. So everyone's like, who's in charge of that? The Dubois. Like, we're one person.
Okay.
The first one was like, there were a bunch of different options. We had a bunch of different units. There were lots of different units there. We didn't send all of our forces to all the different ones, and bad things happened, and dwarves were very upset. So we didn't get to hear much of what actually happened. I didn't even hear the debrief, which kind of sucks. I love hearing what happened.
Sure.
You have to write them a letter and stuff. The next one was like defending a town, and they gave us a bunch of different options. That meeting took well over an hour.
Wow, okay.
And I think, this is my first like thing about the location. Because you're in a cave,
right?
All the sound is like deafeningly loud and distorted.
Yeah.
So when people start speaking loudly, it clashes a lot. People speak in the corridor. You can hear them from a mile off. And generally, I think a lot of people this weekend, I don't think I'm out of line saying this, were a little bit tetchy. Like, people's emotions were kind of frayed. I think communal sleeping. I think the confined area. I think the lack of sunlight. There was a lot of grumpy souls, okay? And I think that kind of, like, permeated a lot of the event. So, I feel like you're kind of stuck with people. I think there was a very... Also, I might as well talk a lot about this cave now we're on the subject. So no, the game team had lots of problems because usually what happens is you have one game runner with the players,
sure,
and another one setting up the encounter, and you can just radio.
Sure, but you can't do that.
Are you ready? Yeah, we're ready. All right, send the players along. Boom. Okay. Yeah. You can't use radios down there, so communication has to be everything done on foot, which is really fucking hard.
Yeah.
If you're sitting on a campsite or somewhere else, everyone can see everything that's going on.
Right.
But if you're not in the tavern or talking to the right people at the right time, you might miss a bunch of encounters. So this became a bit of a problem for new players who didn't go on many encounters. Like, I didn't go on many encounters, but I had my boots filled by the adventures I did have. But new players were definitely left around kind of twiddling their thumbs. Northern Kingdoms can be, by its very nature... Some characters can be a little closed off from each other. This is part of the game. I don't think there's a massive problem with this. But in this environment, I think it started to become a little bit of a problem. Now, as soon as this information was fed back to the game designers, they take action on it. Like, they're so good. They're so responsive to stuff like this. So, I know that they had some new player or newer player. They had one new player thing on the Friday. But on Saturday, when this became more of an issue... they took them out, gave them an absolute rip-roaring fucking encounter where there was like a blind monster who could only hear, and you had to be really quiet moving around it in the dark and stuff. Yeah, like really fucking cool shit. So yeah, well done. Like I think they're so good at that sort of stuff.
And to react on the fly as well and come up with systems and things. That's the whole thing. It feels like it's really adaptive, both like in the way it handles stuff... OC and like all the character generation stuff and the way they've involved your characters in the stories and things, but also in the game itself.
100%. That like they're hell bent on making the best game possible for everyone there.
Yeah,
right. And they want to facilitate that and make sure everyone's having a good time. In fact, I almost feel weird like using the criticisms I have so far because they're so great.
Yeah,
they're really, really great. I think, like I said, I think the site has issues. But let me put it this way. I think, like, it's still a Northern Kingdom event, and Northern Kingdom events are still great.
Yeah, and I think also the aesthetic of the site, right?
Yeah.
And there's prices to playing in certain locations, right? if you want certain types of environments, that does necessarily come with certain costs for those benefits, right?
I don't know. I feel like Chiselhurst Caves are interesting as a site. Would I want to play there again? I don't know. I would have to think about it.
Yeah.
I'm also, since COVID, I really need personal time. I get peopled out quite easily. Like I was talking about, there's a few frayed edges around people over the weekend, and this is like a lot of different people. Like, I think I got pretty pissed off at one stage, which we won't really go into, but I'll kind of mention it briefly. But I think a lot of people had kind of like little frayed edges around stuff.
There's also a fatigue element to things as well, right?
Dude,
and I think
100%. Yeah.
If you're tired and if there's a lot of walking and being on your feet,
audio of things, like there was one fight we went on where there was so much shouting and it was very chaotic. And like I don't really get like sensory overload. I know people do. I started to get like, oh my god, like this is a lot, right? Like a lot of people shouting, a lot of things. In fact, we can talk about that. So then we went. So I'd heard about this prison raid, okay? And there were certain people who had been held by the Nilfgaardians, and we were going to go teleport portal into this area, sneak around,
right?
Jack in the box, get the people out of there.
Sure.
The idea was that I was going to then blow up the prison once we had escaped. Okay. So
just before you get into that, I just think one thing for people who haven't maybe listened to the other episodes. Functionally, when you're saying portaling and teleporting, how does that work in game?
So you need someone who can make portals to cast it. They then do a little bit of RP.
Right.
Like Dr. Portal has a thing where he does he has coloured light to represent where the portal is.
Sure.
Once you travel through the portal, time pauses until you come out of the portal.
Sure. And you need to inform a ref, like when you're making a portal or something, or is it just you do the thing and you put your hand up? Or...
I think so, but don't quote me on that.
Sure. Okay.
There's quite a few things in the rules that talk about having a referee present, and I feel like at one event we did need a ref present. So yes, I'm going to say yes.
Okay.
But obviously Dave rules as Dave rules, and if you go into this event, read the rules yourselves.
Yes.
Anything I say.
It's just to give people a perspective on what the logistics of what you're saying.
But there's interesting stuff to do with like your bleed count. You have like 5 minutes. If you go down and with your hit points gone to 0, then you die.
But if you go for a portal, that time's paused.
Exactly, and then when a doctor starts working on you, if they staunch the bleeding, that also does something to your timer as well. But if they're interrupted, it keeps going. I really like the combat system. It's very straightforward. Like if you have most of your body covered in steel, then you get more hit points, and then if you have some steel but some other bits aren't, then it averages out. I think it's a good system. Me and Callum are both big clonky boys, wearing a lot of steel and gambesons, so we're pretty tough, really. So this prison raid, okay? So the plan is we're going to go there, we're going to rescue a bunch of people, I'm going to then be the last man out, light the fucking bomb, get out of there, blow up this thing. And it's above this Demeterium, whatever the fuck that stuff is. Basically, it's like anti-mage stuff. So if you're going to make them handcuffs out of it, you can put that on a wizard or a sorceress, and they won't be able to do with their magic, okay? Like anti-wizard stuff. So we're going to blow this up, and I was like curious, does it like make a mega explosion like a nuke? And they were like, no, but anyway. So we go through the thing. I'm like, I say to everyone, like the skirmish captain leading us is just like, okay, this is the plan. Goes through, tells everyone that I'm going to be, laying the explosive, and I was just like, listen, everyone, if I fall over or go down with this bomb, we all die. So keep me safe,
Okay.
So we go off this thing, and like the first bit, I even took my tassets off because they clank a lot, and it's for the lols. But in that environment, it's very loud. But anyway, I took them off, and then we kind of sneak along, sneaky.
Okay.
And then we see like a guard, and then we're like, have to like, you know, proper like, remind me of those 1960s Second World War movies, you know,
Sure.
where you see the guard, then you'll have to cross a little bit so that when the guard turns, and then you're all like...
Where Eagles Dare kind of stuff.
Yeah, massively, yeah. So then we all sneak round, go around the thing, and then we realise that there's a dead end, and then they're like, okay, cool, right, and everyone's like waiting, and then everyone's like, okay, let's bum rush them. So literally, like, everyone fucking charges forward. The fight itself was pretty fucking chaotic.
Right.
Okay. Like, I think there was, and this isn't I think, there were definitely some safety concerns. People were very aggressive. People were pretty hyped up. After the battle, the crew had made some pretty like fair comments on that. A lot of them have basically been roughed up or forced against walls, or poked with non-pokey weapons, things like that.
Sure.
I don't know who was involved, but it's like, you know, when we go to these events, crew are there to give us a good time.
Yeah.
It's really important to remember that they're people too. They are not there to get smashed around or whacked around. I don't know whether it was the environment, people got pretty hyped up, whatever it was, but us as players, we are so deeply sorry. We should be better than that, and we let ourselves down in that situation. So there's a few moments of like people packing into an area, stuff like this. It's more like you just... we were all very excited. It was a very intense like thing.
Sure, I guess when there's a lot of build up to a moment as well,
and
you're doing a lot of sneaking and espionage
and
kind of stuff.
We were told this was like this could be very dangerous. Lots of heavy infantry going to be fighting us. We have to find these people. We have to do it quickly. Also, I think there was some people that maybe got a little bit too involved in what was happening. But either way, like, dear crew, really sorry. You know, we as a player base will do better, and we did do better. So there's another skirmish later on where everyone was really, really good, and I think it just needed people to be told, hey, you know, and the orgs did that in a really mature and good way in communicating that. So we find a few of these prisoners, start getting them out, and which is really fun. Like, there are other prisoners there. Sure. And we're like, all right, you're coming with us. Like, I don't know who this is, but now we're basically, you're being...
It's a jailbreak.
Congratulations, you're being rescued. You know, I don't want to go with you while tough titties.
Today's your lucky day.
Today's your lucky day. You know, a sword point, get moving. Do you know what I mean? So we killed a bunch of Nilfgaardians, managed to rescue the people. Just as we're leaving, there was like a bridge area. And
the bridge of Khazad-dûm.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah. It's this tiny little thing, but that's how I pictured it in my imagination. Was the kind of like, flee, you fools. The skirmish captain's last one over the bridge, and I'm like yelling at them like, "Are you the last one?" And she's like, "Yes." And I'm like, "Are you the last one?" Because I'm a professional. I asked twice, and she's like, "Yes." And she was like, "Set the bomb." And I was just like, "Okay." And I'm already fucking around with the bomb. So then everyone's like filling out. There's like basically you turn a corner and that's where the portal is.
Sure.
So I fuck around with it. I got a lantern because I didn't have a bomb, right? Okay. So I just turn the lantern on and I go, okay, we got 60 seconds before this whole place goes down. Okay, and then
amazing.
So then we all start filtering out. There was so we're running to the thing. An incident happened with another player where there was an assassination attempt put against me.
Okay.
There's a few things about this that I don't feel that I can really talk about on the podcast because I have a platform. I can talk to you about it. I will give my version of events and the other person will not be able to respond. And I think that isn't fair.
Yeah.
So therefore, I'm not going to go into it. This was a pretty big part of my weekend and has given me weird feelings after the event. I have tried to reach out to that player. That player clearly doesn't want to talk to me about it. I fully understand. It's fine. But just a shout out to the orgs. They were really, really good about it. We went through a whole bunch of stuff together. I explained my position on a bunch of stuff, which ended in basically me saying, like, I don't really want to interact with this person in future, which is fine. And they were totally fine with that. And everything kind of went out well. So I just want to give a quick shout out to the orgs. Thank you very much for that. You handled it really well. none of us want to have these kind of awkward situations in game. So I can't really talk about it at all. I would love to talk about some of the details and nuances of it, because I think they're really interesting when it comes to how we interact with the game, safety, motivation of characters, why you kill another character. When, for me, would that be a good thing? I can't talk about any of that.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on.
Okay.
At some point later on, I come back into the caves. A whole bunch of people are on the ground. Oh yeah, we blow the thing up, okay? Yay, victory, right? Come back into the town, and there's a whole bunch of people down, and then a giant fucking centipede body in the thing, and they're like, don't touch it, it will make you poison. I'm like, holy shit, like... Did this
and this
just
thing's huge,
happen?
it's like 20 feet long, right?
It's fucking massive.
Right.
And the way they operate it is like one of those Chinese dragon puppets.
Yeah.
And it was just like, that's fucking awesome. I saw it when it was dead. I got to see it alive later on. But man, like, it fucked people up, okay? Like, they used like silly string to represent like poison or whatever coming off it.
Oh, amazing.
Like, really fun.
That's
like, really fun. So... New player encounter, they all go off, have a fucking great time. So we're like chilling out in the evening, okay?
Okay.
And then a troll comes into the bar. It's a friendly troll.
A friendly troll?
Trollololol. And
are you for real?
there's trolls walking around and he's saying hello to everyone, and people were hugging the troll, and I was just like, I gotta go hug me a fucking troll, right? Like,
that's amazing.
So I gave the troll...
This is the really cool thing about The Witcher, right? It has these kind of... Because it's all... it's sort of dark fairy tales.
Yeah.
For those who kind of don't know the kind of... the lore very well. But it's kind of like dark, sort of Eastern European fairy tales.
Polish, like, stuff, yeah.
And it's like... But some of that necessarily comes with weird, quirky stuff.
The game's hilarious.
And it's hilarious, right?
There's loads of, like, very silly... This is why, like, it's cool with the Dubois being as kind of silly and loud as they are. All of this still fits into the world. You can have your edgy fucking witches who are great, by the way.
Yeah.
They're always, like, you know, kind of like... I can smell the troll in the air. You know, like, stay near me.
Yeah.
If you leave my side, you'll die. You know, that sort of shit, right?
Sure.
Love it, right?
Yeah.
And from that, then to us being, like, dressed down by the Duchess of Tucson for being too silly.
Right.
Also, like, I forgot one great line, which was, when they asked us in court, why did you do it? And then Cam just goes... Because it was funny, and then they were like, you know, not to defend yourself in court.
Sure.
Actually, that night, Dr. Portal came up to me and went to me, so, how do you think the court case went? And I went, it went incredibly well. And he was like, what? And I was just like, yes, we are not dead, we are not in prison, I think it went really well. I think the Duchess really likes us. And it was just like, you know, like, he was like just looking at us and just like, oh my God, you're the
idiots.
worst. Idiots. So I give a troll a hug, which was really fucking fun.
That's cool.
The guy in the troll suit was working hard. It was warm down there, and he's wearing a giant fucking troll outfit, which is baller, by the way.
Yeah.
Like, it's so cool. We're hanging out, having a few drinks.
Right.
Beau Duval comes down and he's giving us an elocution lesson. Okay,
amazing.
So we're kind of playing along. It's just good times with him anyway.
Sure.
Then there's these two dwarves come into the bar.
Okay.
And then one of them kind of says to us, I'll give you a crown if you stab him or slap him or punch him or something. And I say to the other one, like, hey, your friend here just tried to pay us a coin to hit you or whatever. And he says, oh yeah, and he starts talking about it. And I was like, oh, come here, and he sits them down. Then a judge dwarf comes in,
right,
and there is a problem with a legal claim to a silver mine.
Right.
This old fella, this elder dwarf,
right,
was in charge of this
silver mine. Right.
And the way dwarf heritage works is it's the eldest member of the family inherits it.
Okay.
Now, one of them married like his sister or something, and then he became the person that should have inherited it. but then the other dwarf said that he had promised the silver mine to go to him.
Right.
And he seemed like a more of a kind of stand-up kind of
Sure.
dwarf fellow,
Right.
and the other guy was
But that's
very
not how
rich.
it works.
No.
Right.
So the judge was like, well, it's going to take me at least 10 years to work this out, right? Like, dwarf justice works very slowly. And I was
Amazing.
just like, so we decided that we were going to get involved, okay?
Okay.
The Dubois will get to the bottom of this. So then we're all kind of arguing, and people are kind of talking over themselves. And then we bring out, like, a cup. And whoever's holding the cup gets to talk, okay? This... Thank you to the other players involved and the NPC players, because holy shit, this was funny.
Okay.
Like, I would like hand the cup to the judge, and then the judge would start talking, and I didn't like what he said, so I'd just whip the jug out of his hands and then pass it to someone else, and then he would stop speaking because he didn't have the cup anymore, and
Amazing.
like, just very silly. It got to the point where everyone has kind of said their piece. At one point, we had been like, oh, okay, so we're all agreed, whoever gets a silver mine, the Dubois get 25% for helping you out sort out what it is. And they were like, yeah, okay, type thing. And it was just
Amazing.
like, yes, sweet.
In 10 years' time.
Success. Well, once they get the thing done. So it boiled down to the judge basically saying that, like, some of the free company were going off to a place to find the will or proof of what had happened. Okay? So, which is cool.
Yeah.
And then a few minutes later, a Witcher comes back holding an axe.
Right.
Okay. And this axe is like possessed. Okay. And the axe is like leading the Witcher around. And then it's like, you know, it points in direction and zooms off, and then they kind of chase it, and then they kind of turn around. It's very Witcher stuff.
Okay.
Like, this is like, I'm in The Witcher at this stage. This
Okay.
is one of the most immersive fucking... I love this as a... It's like
A visual vista, right?
The side quests in The Witcher 3 are so fucking good, and this was like one of those, like
Right.
an absolutely memorable side quest. Anyway, the Witcher's zooming around. Turns out the barman is sat down, and the axe comes up to the barman, and they're like, well, he's not the guy. But then the barman starts speaking like an old man. The barman has been possessed by the elder.
Oh, my word.
And starts explaining how he doesn't want the thing to go to the guy that married into the family. He wants to go to the other guy. And then they're like, the judge is like, this is so unusual, what the hell? And that they have to talk to a Witcher to find out whether this stuff is true or not. And then they have to have it written down. So then the possessed barman elder writes out his will and testimony, and then the guy gets the deed.
You got 25%?
Well, I don't know what's going to happen with that. Afterwards, you're like 25%, and he just goes, I'll make sure you get something. So I think we need to mention something in the downtime, just to remind people that we want to wet our beaks a little bit in the...
They said 25%.
They said 25%. But non-dwarves can't own dwarven stuff.
Sure.
But we could have, you know, a taste of the profits, 25%, you know.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm just throwing
Sitting on a
numbers out
beach,
here. I'm throwing
earning
out
20%.
Earning 20%. Yeah, so I don't know what's going to happen with that. Yeah, okay. That's kind of Saturday night. Did a lot of drinking. Had a really good time.
Sure.
Lovely interactions. Like, and bear in mind, I'm running roughshod over this as usual.
Sure.
I think what's special about these events are, like, there was a really good doctor character there who I loved interacting with. Like, there were so many people that were so much fun to interact with. I think some of the best stuff about Northern Kingdoms is the RP with the other characters and kind of like just hanging out and living in this world. People really, really go for it. It's great. Anyway, Sunday. There's the big battle. At some point in the morning, we got the princess, and she's no longer cursed.
Okay.
Win.
Yeah.
Bad thing. There's some necromancer or sorceress.
Okay.
And we need to find... We have a book, but the book has missing pages, and we need to find the missing pages
Okay.
to go and sort this thing out. There's something to do with a woman being trapped in a mirror as well that I wasn't involved in.
Right. Side quests a go-go.
These are main quests that I had nothing to
main
do
quests.
with. These
Okay.
are main quests that I don't know who the fuck was doing those. I think Witcher Business or whoever, not me.
Sure.
So then our job is to go off and find these pages. Okay, so because of how much of a clusterfuck the other battle was, there was like, right, we're going to split everyone into units.
Okay.
And we had a wonderful skeleton fella who we like anyway, but
Sure.
I were like, oh, and then every time someone hadn't been selected that was a friend of ours, were like, hey, come and join our group. And
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
like, oh, you guys are going to be the front line. And we were like, oh, fuck.
Okay.
So we head off, go into this cavern, and we come through, and it's just like there's tunnels going off each way, and at the end of each tunnel, there's a load of fucking dudes, and they're heavily armed, and we're
Okay.
like, oh dear, we're by ourselves out here. So we kind of filtered in, and they were holding a doctor,
Okay.
one of our doctors, hostage,
Right.
and the acoustics is kind of hard, so yelling at each other is kind of difficult, especially
Sure.
with noise going on. But we also didn't have enough people to fight, and none of us knew what the fuck was going on.
Right.
So none of us really responded
Okay.
to the person yelling at us, if you want this person to live, you should talk to me. And then they cut her heart out and then threw the heart at us.
Jeez.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Wow.
Don't know whether we're responsible for that. Might be responsible for that.
Okay.
Okay.
These things happen.
Hey, you know, I didn't want them to cut the heart out. Well, I think to be fair, Jean-Paul said, I'll talk to you, and then they cut her heart out. So
Right.
maybe a little too late, but we did try.
Okay.
But yeah, having someone's still beating heart thrown at you, not very nice.
No.
Not as nice as,
Yeah.
obviously, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, one important thing was, there was talk about, to do this ritual, they needed a willing sacrifice.
Okay.
So either it will be magical or non-magical. So Prue, who's like a good fighter dude, he was like, I'll do it if it's this, if it's non-magical. And Dr. Portal said that he would do it if it's magical. And I kept on saying to him, you selfish bastard, always thinking of yourself. And he's like, I'm going to save everyone. I'm going to save the whole world. And I'm like, oh, look at me. I'm Dr. Portal. I'm saving everyone. Do you ever stop and think about me and my needs? Don't be so selfish. You know? Good Dubois action. So I was fuming at him for being so selfish.
Right.
So we head off. It kicks off.
Okay.
When I say clusterfuck, it was a really good safe fight.
Sure.
Lots of people fighting all over the place. We get pushed back. There's like neckers in our midst. There's heavy infantry. Everyone's getting fucked up. A troll comes out. I get hit by a troll. I go and get fixed up. I come back. The crew are throwing rocks at us. Oh yeah, this is one thing. There's also earthquakes happening.
Okay.
I don't know what could have caused those earthquakes. Could have been anything. Could have been anything.
Could have been anything.
Could have been anything.
Yeah.
You know?
Look.
Hey.
Big boom.
Big boom. You know? It must have been one of the biggest booms I've ever done. But there were...
The earth moved.
The earth moved. Yeah. They're yeeting like foam rocks at us and
That's
stuff,
really
which
cool.
we're RPing with. Really fun, like cave-ins, fighting the baddies. Eventually, we're like, people are talking about running away, and then like it eases up a bit, and then we're like, have we got the fucking pages yet? And they're like, no. And like, well, we have to keep looking. So me and my little crew went off and did a little sneaky sneak.
Sure.
Didn't find the fucking things.
No.
Came around another way. Clearly where the fucking thing is, okay? You know when you're playing a computer game and you kill all the baddies, and
Sure.
you're like, where the hell do I go? And then you realise there's a baddie over there and you're like, that way.
Okay.
Because I haven't killed anyone here yet. So they've got like a line of people in a doorway, like over the other side of a hallway. And we're like, okay, cool, we're going to charge them. And then we turn around and like everyone charges through, but there's a tripwire, and as soon as they do the tripwire, loads of rocks fall on us.
Amazing.
And we get crumped, which crumped my armour. And then we fight our way in. Eventually we get into a little inner sanctum where there's like, oh yeah, there's rock golems. I forgot to mention the fucking rock golems.
Okay.
Rock golems.
Yeah.
Don't fuck with rock
Bad
golems.
business.
Bad business, rock
Right.
golems. So by the time I get into the room, Prue has come in. He's got those handcuffs, you know, the dematerium or whatever,
Yeah,
handcuffs.
so they can't use magic.
So dumps them on the sorceress. The fucking rock golems aren't moving or whatever, so I like perp up to their faces and look at them, and I'm like, ugh, and then I run away again.
Amazing.
We leave.
And you've got the pages now?
Yes.
Okay.
We head back, and they're like, cool, right? Like, jobs are good, and head back to the fucking thing. It's Sunday, everyone's a little bit knackered. Mages are going to go off and do mage shit. Okay? It's fine.
Yeah.
Dr. Portal then comes back later, and is like, so... got some bad news. Oh yeah, the whole entire point about this was because there's this vampire, this elder ancient vampire,
Okay.
who is going to get resurrected and basically cause the apocalypse.
Right. As happens.
Yeah, and there was some other stuff to do with vampire bats and some other shit, right?
Okay.
But the whole point was that we're going to stop this from happening.
Right.
They did not do that.
Okay.
They might well have summoned the apocalyptic event vampire princess or whatever.
Okay.
So...
Good job.
Hey.
Look. You tried.
I did my job.
Yeah. It sounds like mage business.
It is mage business, you know? So, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? You know? So, there's probably, like, right now, a vampire death lord charging round, chomping up dwarves, converting them to an undead horde, which will then bring 1,000 years of darkness to the world as we know it.
Hey.
These things happen.
These things happen. Right.
In the meantime, we'll be drinking some wine, blowing some stuff up, and living our best lives.
And having elocution lessons.
Yes. Yes.
My God, it sounds so good, dude.
Mate, like, I think, like, I can't wait for the next one.
Yeah.
Like, I can't wait for the next one. I can't wait to write downtime. I can't wait to interact with people again. I love what they do. The player base is fucking fantastic.
Sure.
Yeah, hype. And also thank you to our patrons, Charles Yanold, Kev McGregor, and Violet.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, do you know how I'm going to close it out?
How are you going to close it out?
Oh, I hate myself for this. But you should always remember to toss a coin to your Witcher.
Oh my God, the cringe.
Oh, the cringe.
Oh, I've cringed so hard. Oh, jeez. Hashtag cancel Dave.